Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about First Reformed. And this movie came out in 2017, and it's directed by Paul Schrader and also written by him. And he's the same writer as Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. And it also stars Ethan Hawke. And before I get into my thoughts on this movie, yes, I know technically this is from 2018, but I'm going by movies according to IMDb, what year they came out. So according to IMDb, it's 2017, so gotta have some consistency, I guess. But I thought this movie was pretty great. I thought this movie looked pretty nice. It was very well shot, and I really enjoyed the look of this movie. And I also thought the acting was pretty great from everyone. Ethan Hawke did a really great job in this movie, and the characters also I found to be really interesting to follow, and there was plenty to soak in, and there were lots of philosophical ideas sprinkled throughout this movie that I really loved exploring with the characters. And there's just a lot to soak in about this movie, and even if there are things that sure you might have heard them before, they're still interesting to think about, and it's not poorly done in this movie, I feel. And sure, there are some issues with it. I'll get into those later, but most of the movie I think is pretty great, especially the first half. I think the first half is almost a perfect movie, basically. And in terms of the tone and what it's setting up, I thought all of that was great. And I was with the entire movie. In the second half, it takes some directions that I didn't quite agree with, and some things regarding its presentation did drag it down. But the first half I thought was pretty excellent, and I really enjoyed the tone of the movie and what it was setting up, and everything that it had established I was with. And one small detail that I really did appreciate was that when it came to texting in this movie, it just shows you on a character's phone what they texted to another person, and they don't say out loud what they are reading or what the text said or anything like that. They just show it to you that's on their phone screen, and after they're done reading it, they just close it and move on from there. And I think that's a really great way to handle that. The violence in this movie, when it did have violence, which was very minimal, was actually quite disturbing at times. And this movie is mostly focused on dialogue. When we get to dialogue, I think it's great and very well written. And there's one scene towards the beginning where the main character and this character, Mike, are having a conversation. And it was very engaging for me. And also there's narration in this movie that I feel as though helped with the movie for the most part. And I also really loved the lack of music in this movie. And I thought it added so much to every single scene in which there was no music whatsoever. I thought that was a very, very restrained choice that added to the movie a lot. But sadly, there is some music where we get into the second half. It starts to rely on it a bit. And I was like, I get to that there's supposed to be an escalation to certain things, and I understand why you're adding it to the movie, but it just wasn't unique or had much to the experience at all. Like, I felt as though if it was just no music throughout the entire film, I think it would have worked a lot better. And there was one point where characters were having a conversation, and it's that same scene that I was talking about that happened early on in the movie where the main character and this other character, Mike, are having a conversation, and there's a little bit of narration, and that happens a couple times in the movie, but in this scene in particular, it kind of distracted me because I was so with what these characters were talking about, and then we get this narration. I was like, you're interrupting something that I was really engaged with. I was like, come on, I just want to hear what they have to say. But luckily, it didn't ruin the scene. It just dragged it down a bit. And there was one scene that did feel like it was kind of cut short. Like it just kind of happened, and now we're just moving on to the next scene. I was like, whoa, that was kind of odd. The rest of the movie, I didn't have that same issue, but it was just one scene where it just felt like it just cut to the next scene very abruptly. I do find this movie to be a good character study. Like, you do understand like what characters are thinking, and as the movie progresses, you get a thorough understanding of what their thought processes are like. And I think the movie it does a great job with things like that. And also, fun fact, with this movie, it did get nominated for an Oscar for original screenplay, but it didn't win, unfortunately. It lost to Green Book for original screenplay, sadly. A movie that I don't really care for all that much, but I'll talk about that another day. And my only other issue with this movie, and it's just like such an easy fix that they could have handled a bit better if they just approached it slightly differently. And it just has to do with the editing, not with the idea of where it goes story wise, or with the writing, or with any of the performances, or thematically where it's going for. It's just the editing where it just cuts and the movie's over. And it just felt so abrupt. I was like, whoa, we're done? I don't know. It just left me feeling like you could have handled that a bit better, I feel. But aside from that, I thought this movie was pretty great. I really loved this movie overall. There's lots to soak in about the movie, lots to chew on, loads of stuff to love, and especially for someone like me who just likes things to be really slow. But having a lot to dig underneath the surface, and lots to think about, and lots to interpret from certain characters, all that stuff really works for me, and that's why I love this movie. So check this movie out whenever you get the chance. And also, fun fact, it's also an A24 film, so if you're a fan of A24 films, then check it out for sure. No 4K Blu-ray yet, sadly, but I guess I'll wait until that happens to own it, I guess. But who knows if that'll actually ever happen, because they don't always get a 4K Blu-ray. But anyways, kind of rambling. Check this movie out whenever you get the chance, and with all that being said, I'm going to give First Reformed a 9 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of First Reformed, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Funny Games from 1997. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.